George,
Joe.
season finale time.
Yeah, we did it. Season 1 down.
And we have an awesome show. Who do we have on tonight?
We have an amazing show tonight. We have Scott Schwartz from The Toy and a Christmas Story, which I'm really excited about. We're going to get him up here in just a couple of minutes and do some Q&A and let some people ask some stuff. But first of all, before we get into that, apologies for last week's episode. There's nothing we can do about the power grid, I guess, right?
Sure enough. Actually, it was a truck.
Okay. Well, sorry to our guests, sorry to our viewers, sorry to everybody, because the episode before that we had some awesome view numbers, which I'm really happy about. Our last episode that aired was over 5,000 views, right, Joe?
Yeah, it absolutely was. And before we go on again, welcome to Romero Pictures Indie Brigade with your host George C. Romero, because we are actually doing audio only shows now, so we got to make sure to touch base on that.
And that's Joe's little fuck you to George. So there it is. The bar has been set. The gauntlet has been thrown. Fuck you, Joe.
Much ado. Who else do we have on tonight before you go on?
That's a big thing you just brought up. We're now doing audio only streams of our podcast. We are getting picked up and syndicated, I guess is the proper term for that, across some different platforms. And all of that is going to be made a lot clearer on January 2nd when we make our announcement, and on January 3rd when we go into it in detail on our New Year's episode, the first episode of 2020. So all of that said, there's very exciting things going on, and I'm very happy about it. And tonight's guests are Scott Schwartz. We've got Richard Grieco, a good friend of mine. And finally, we've got Michael Mandaville, the line producer from the Taken series of films. And we are going to get into some serious talk about some of the business of independent filmmaking, things like budgeting and scheduling, and as Michael likes to call it, filmmaking with a calculator. So we've got a great show, and we're just kind of speeding through these intros so we can get into it. So here we go.
All right. So our first guest, Scott Schwartz, who many people know from Christmas Story. We'll bring up the infamous picture that he's never seen before, and also The Toy with Richard Pryor and Jackie Gleason. So without further ado, here's Scott.
Hey,
Scott.
guys.
How's it going?
I'm good. I'm glad I'm doing the video and not just the audio, because then I can only do the audio if not the video. But this is good.
Yeah, no, we have a lot of fun doing this. It's good. We have a good time, and we can put all kinds of people up here together. And my favorite moment about tonight is going to come in a few minutes when I turn you over to Joe, because he's got something to talk to you about. But with us right now,
I thought he was going to say, just hurry up so we can get to Richard Grieco,
We've got Scott Schwartz on, and Scott was part of two iconic films, The Toy with Richard Pryor and A Christmas Story, which has become, it's gotten its own cult following.
Yes.
That infamous.
So there it is right there. There he is. So we're lucky to have him here tonight. And, I think the first question I'd like to ask you, man, is, being a part of something that became so iconic, what's that like, to kind of have that in your, like when people talk to me about my dad and stuff, he did this iconic stuff, and all I can do is talk about it from an outsider's perspective. You were actually somebody who was part of something iconic. What's that like to carry around?
It's not. I don't consider it like baggage. It's nice because people are cool about it. They're friendly about it. They want to talk to you. They want to smile. It's not like anybody, says, "Oh, you killed Luke Skywalker and we need to kill you." No, it was, the tongue of the flagpole is very innocent and very fun. It's sort of interesting, doing, having only really 8 minutes in the film. And they did a bronze statue of me in Hammond, Indiana, the home of Gene Shepard, the writer. And I see that and I look at it and I go, that's great. I got a bronze statue. And $4 gets me a cup of coffee at Dunkin' Donuts, So, I mean, while it's a great legacy type thing, but while you're still here, it really doesn't have any meaning other than fans who just love you. That's it.
Yeah.
Fan appreciation.
But that's still really cool to have something like that. That's part of your life, part of your history. You
could do a million different things and nobody remembers any of it.
Yeah.
So to be a part of something that is remembered, I mean, it's fun and it's cool, Yeah,
absolutely. Well, what's going on with you? What's going on with you now? What are you up to these days? I mean,
I'm still working. I'm actually doing a film, believe it or not, next week. I'm doing a 7 days on an independent film, and then I'm going to do something else in April. And, I rep celebrities for autograph shows and memorabilia signings and all kinds of stuff like that. And buy and sell movie collectibles, sports memorabilia. I sell stuff on eBay. I stay busy. I've found a life that's not dependent on being always in front of the camera.
Right. Well, and that's good. That's something that we actually talk about a lot here in the Brigade, is having something outside, having something else other than this business, because this business can kill you.
Yeah, I mean, and I wasn't the guy to be going, and you wanted fries with that, right? Yeah, no, that wasn't me.
No. But so now, I don't know if you want to touch on your book or not. We didn't actually come to a resolution on this, but no,
it's not going to be on until next September. It's called Whatever Happened to Me. That's the title I have so far. They haven't said no, so they seem to be okay with that.
Okay.
It's basically the good, the great, the bad, the ugly. I'm a New Jersey boy. I don't sugarcoat stuff. I say it the way that it is. So some people will probably be really happy. Some people might not be happy. I don't know. But it's a life experience book. It's all the things that have happened to me, the place I've gone, people I've met, the learning experiences, working with Jackie Gleason and Richard Pryor and Robert Klein and Liza Minnelli and et cetera, and whatever, with WWF back in the 80s. Just it never ends.
I mean, you've done it all. You've had this storied life and this storied career that people have got to be, there's people out there that just probably look at you and say, oh my God, what a life you've led. And then
there's others that go, oh, he's a has-been and he's doing nonsense. And it's like, okay, whatever.
Those are just haters, man. They're everywhere,
they're everywhere. That's the world of the internet now.
Absolutely.
I'd rather appreciate and give love and not be jealous of somebody else's successes. If I see somebody that's done really well for themselves, I'm like, that's great. They're going to be able to feed 5 generations of their family. Good for them.
Exactly. Yeah.
If it were to happen to me, great. Okay. But if it happens to somebody I know or somebody I care about, I'm all for it. Or anybody, if I don't know them, I don't give a shit.
Yeah, exactly. Well, listen, what kind of films are you doing? You said you're getting ready to go off and do a film, right?
I'm doing, it's called the Christmas Wrestling Movie. And it's not exactly what you would think it is. It's not like professional wrestling. It's about, a kid who's who's a wrestler, and he also wants to be an independent filmmaker. And he makes a film, and then we kind of find out what happens to the footage and where we go from there. And, there's blackmail and all kinds of fun stuff, nothing crazy.
That's cool. Well, that sounds like a great time, though.
Yeah, I mean, I've got I'm in 22 scenes, and I'm supposed to get that done in 6.5 days.
Yeah. So, okay. So let's talk about that real quick. How about that? That's got to be a big shift because back in the day, I mean, I'm sure Christmas Story was a little bit more because it was a big independent film. So I'm sure it was a little bit more run and gun.
It was MGM.
When you were doing movies like The Toy, like they had months to make The Toy, right? I mean,
it was a page a day. It was a 90 page script, and we were supposed to shoot actually for 95 days. And Richard Pryor took ill, and we ended up shooting actually 4 months. But the script was only like 92 pages or something.
Yeah.
I mean, I shot an independent. Oh God, it's got to be 10 or 12 years ago now. With the bully from Christmas Stories, Zach Ward, who played Scott Farkas.
Yeah. And
he called me up and he's like, we need a producer for this thing. And it's really guerrilla shooting. And I said, okay. So I go, all right. And the guy that put up the money was a carpet cleaner.
Yeah.
He had no idea about filmmaking, but he was going to direct this.
Sure.
He hires a DP who probably weighs 350 pounds, shot everything on a tripod. Everything shot on a tripod. So we shot the whole movie in 11 days.
Yeah. It's crazy, the turnaround time. I got a feature that we're trying to put together right now, and that's our entire schedule is 11 days to shoot the entire feature film.
It depends on what you're shooting.
Yeah, but I mean, it's still crazy. Like, even if it's an effects heavy or stun heavy project now, you're lucky if you get 21 days. You get these people saying, 21, 26 days, and people are pulling it off.
Well, believe it or not, it is simpler now simply because of video.
Yeah,
we're not shooting 35, so people can have 2 and 3 and 4 cameras shooting at the same time, as opposed to a 35, and that's you got one camera and one setup, and then you got to go to the next one.
Yeah.
Now with everything else, they're shooting, 4 people at the same time are shooting one scene, and if they got cast members that aren't involved in that scene, they'll take them someplace else and shoot a B-roll or whatever.
Yeah. I got a cinematographer friend who calls it point and shoot filmmaking nowadays, because they got these cameras that are shooting 6K and up, 8K video, and they'll just set up and shoot a wide and then punch in for their close-ups in post. And, it's kind of pissing off some of the old-timer cinematographers, because, it's like people don't even change lenses anymore. They just crank through stuff. And, and that's a large part of what the Brigade is about too, is about teaching and passing on the knowledge of the old-timers to the new school, so that the new school can kind of learn the techniques of the old timers and the old tech and apply it to the new tech. And that's kind of a big focus of ours. So, I mean, what let me ask you this question. Would you prefer?
I'm more old school. Old school.
Yeah. Would you prefer 4 months to make a movie, or would you prefer 2 months to make a movie, or even a month to make a movie?
Well, it depends on where we're making this movie.
That's true.
If you're telling me, we're going to be in South Africa, well, I'll take the 2 weeks. If you're telling me we're going to be in Belize or Australia or, sure, I'll take a couple of months. No problem. No, I'm more old school movie making. That's what I grew up with. I mean, I grew up watching the Hopalong Cassidys and the 1940s B serials, The Adventures of Captain Marvel, The Fighting Devil Dogs, The Spider Returns. I like the look of film, and it's so different than video. That's why they were doing for a while. They were doing the thing called film look, where they took it off of a 16 print, and they ran it through a film chain. It sort of made it look, they showed it on video, and then they made it look like 16. It was like, nah,
Yeah.
I actually just heard this. There's a fellow actor, not going to mention his name, but he did a very, very big film. And apparently they're having a big revival of this film now. Well, they cut a new print and they made it in like 4G. He will actually not go to a theater to watch the film in its original format. It has to be in 4G for him to go and do an appearance. Yeah. And I'm like, really? Really?
Yeah.
I mean, I want to see Christmas Story on a 35 screen the way it was in 1983.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't want to go and see a 2020 version of it. No, I want to see it as it came out. It's like basically going to see, one of your dad's films, from 1974, but it doesn't look like that now.
Yeah.
Now it looks like a video game. It's like, no.
Yeah, they just did a big restoration of Night of the Living Dead. People say they love it. I don't know. I the first time I saw Night of the Living Dead, I watched a 16 millimeter print of it on a projector in the basement of the house I grew up in.
That's exactly what I did.
Yeah, and I can't. To me, that's Night of the Living Dead. So when I see the big 4K stuff, it.
I watched it on 16.
Yeah.
That's what I watched it on.
Yeah.
And if you see it on a big screen, and it's one thing to have a dirty print and have a clean print. Yes, you want to watch a clean print so that there's not all the bubbles and crap, Right. But that's just a clean print of the film, but it's film. It's not a digitalized version, of what was shot. I'm with
I hear
you. I'm with you.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. Hey, listen, I gotta bring Joe up here if he's around because we're getting.
Was that a
getting to
fat joke?
point. What?
Was that a fat joke?
No.
Oh, because
Being
she
round?
said around.
Uh-huh.
You're
You're taking that a little personal, aren't you, Joe?
You don't know George.
Fuck you, Joe.
See, now I know George's age and my age were pretty close. Joe looks a little bit younger, so
Well, thank you. I'll
It's
take
just
that
the
as a
beanie.
compliment. It's just the beanie.
Yeah,
But I have a full head of hair under here.
you do. I know, and I'm not sure if it makes you look younger or older. Anyway, so listen, I brought Joe back up here because he's got kind of a bone to pick with you.
yeah, I know.
Yeah, I kind of told
So,
him beforehand.
Right
you're-
now,
you're-
the
you're-
season finale. I'm sorry, Joe. The season finale of Indie Brigade is the showdown. Right now,
all right, well, he has wrestling experience. I don't.
that's true.
Bring it on. Come on, Joe. Bring it on, dude. Let's go.
All right. So, Scott, you're the bane of my existence. I had one chance to make it big back in 1982. Okay, 82. The day after my birthday, I was brought to an open audition.
Look at that.
And yes, that is
I
me
wish I
next
had
to a
that. I wish I had that poster, that cutout. That would be great.
right.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, true story. Long Island, New York, at a Toys R Us. Yes, the day after my birthday. It says February 6th at this store. I can't read the rest. I actually had to try to take a picture and clean that up. That's the original Polaroid that I had from it.
Wow,
Yeah, so it's old.
that is great, man.
But yes, you stole my dreams, man. And for that, yeah.
Well, I'm going to use the line from Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein. That's what I'm going to pull from right now. When Lou Costello looks at Lon Chaney and goes, "Yeah, you and 20 million other guys." That's the only one I can pull. There was, from what I was told, there was something around 8,000, 9,000 kids that actually went to the Toys R Us's and they said, "Hey, this is what we're doing." And I think all it was really was you just said hi, and they took your name and they took a picture of you, and that was like pretty much it. I don't.
Oh well, thank you for dumbing that down for everybody. What I did, I appreciate
Well, no,
that.
there was. From what I was told, there was no dialogue.
Hi, my name is Joey Ridgely.
There's just too many kids that they had to see across the country, and they were looking for a Jackie Gleason lookalike. That's what they wanted. Had they done it now, you would have qualified.
Damn, he's just getting you with the one food, Joe. Oh man, he beat your ass when you were a kid.
I had to. That was for you, man.
Down.
That's awesome. I will take that as a compliment then.
Yeah.
Jackie Gleason, man, remember that? Oh, jeez, man, I could.
But I was actually told that I was too young.
How old were you?
1982. I was 6.
Yeah, you were too young.
I was a tall 6 though.
You were a tall 6, and I was a short 13. I got the job. I was 4'6". I weighed 52 pounds.
Wow.
Yeah, and in within a week, because we were in Louisiana and I was in that full wool military uniform, I went down to like 48 pounds, and they started just giving me fluid. They were making me drink, more sodas, more liquids, feeding me every kind of shit food that they could find. They were giving it to me.
Junk food all around.
Yeah, because they wanted me to gain the weight back because I was schwitzing everywhere. Underneath the uniform, I'm wearing, an undershirt and long johns because it was all wool and it itched like hell. So I was just a sweat bag. I was just sweating off the weight.
I got to go over a couple of comments that that they're rooting for Scott here. Yeah, get him, Scott.
Thank you. You mean to say, oh no, come on,
Here's our buddy Steve Joyner.
There you go. Hey, Steven. What's going on, buddy?
And Lance saying, great story. Thanks, Lance. And I'm assuming this is to Scott's comment.
Zing, okay.
Yeah. Oh, and thanks for chiming in, Chuck. Yeah.
I thought you said that you were going to bring up comments supporting you, Joe.
No, that's a Scott, not me.
Wait, is there one? Wait. Any Joe?
Not just Lance saying. No, I mean one of as a kid seeing that movie was when they pressed the button and the picture.
The painting.
The painting, yes, the painting.
Yeah, Dick Donner, the director, from what I understand, he has that.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I would like to have that.
I would like to have that. It's great.
We would all like to have that.
Realistically, it worked, but it didn't work because they had, figured out how to do it, but they had rigged it so that, it's supposed to be a remote control, which was baloney. There was actually just a guy sitting on the floor, and as soon as Gleason went like this, he stuck the plug in the wall, and the thing just went up. It just went up.
Movie magic.
They didn't have it switched right.
As long as it worked. At the end of the day,
and Teresa
that's all that matters.
Gansell, who played Fancy Bates, one of my dearest friends. I love her to death. She's still here, and she was beautiful.
Yeah.
I don't actually think that was her body. They just kind of painted something. But
Right.
it still looked great.
Hey, to a kid, it was perfect.
Oh, absolutely. No question. The
It really was, wasn't it?
It's still perfect. What are we talking about?
Oh, we got Lance saying, hashtag someone throw Joe a bone, right? I can't catch a break on this program. What the hell?
Lance, no way.
Joe
wanted to pick this fight.
Let's see. We got Anthony. What's Bob Clark directing style like?
In my case, very easy. He basically said, do what you want, and we'll see what happens. That was really what he was like with me. He was more direct with Peter Billingsley, who played Ralphie. He wanted a particular character. He wanted Ralphie done a particular way. There was fighting going on the set between him and Gene Shepard, because Gene kind of had the way that he saw Ralphie, and Bob's going, go away. Leave the kid alone. Again, outside of that, Bob didn't say 5 words. We did the tongue on the flagpole, and he's like, do whatever you want. So I did it, and he's like, great, give me more. Go heavier. I did it again. I gave him more. He goes, no, you did it better the first time, the way you did it. Go down. That was pretty much all of the direction I got from Bob Clark. Because we were just kids, and he just let it fly, let it go.
Can you still hit that high of a decibel?
Probably not, dude. I wish I could. I used to sing Celine Dion and Barbra Streisand and Carole King, and I can't do that stuff no more, man. Can't do it. Doing Steve Perry from Journey was easy. Now it's like, forget it. I gotta get like 4 cups of hot tea in me and really try.
Wow.
Man, I ain't been able to sing in a high voice since I was like 3. My voice changed.
My favorite thing to do. Oh, thank you very much. I like to say I love the George and Joe show, baby. I was gonna come on the show, but the Colonel, he said, I gotta get paid, and it's a freebie, baby. You know what I'm saying, baby? So I like to do Elvis.
Nice.
I've performed in front of a couple thousand people doing Elvis, so it's like I can do it. Thank God that voice is not gone.
We got Steven saying that he's in a Target in San Diego looking at leg lamps. I've got one I got multiple. Actually, we have one on a shelf, an actual 1.5 one, and then I know my wife has at least 1 or 2 on the freaking Christmas tree also. Iconic movie, no doubt about it. And who is it, TNT or TBS that runs the 24 hours on Christmas Eve now?
It's TBS. It's all Turner. It doesn't matter. It's all TV. It's CBS. It's all Turner. But
Yeah.
24 hours, man.
It definitely goes on the TV in our house.
Well, see, the thing is, what my wife and I complain about is every time we start watching it and we have to go and do something, we come back and it's like right at half hour before we started. It's like, oh, shit.
There's a new electronic thing. I don't know if you're aware of it. It's called the pause button.
Wow. Yeah. Okay, where was that hashtag throw Joe a bone?
What you doing to yourself, man?
See?
When you lay him out there to somebody with half a bit of intelligence.
Well, see, we're not used to having people on like that. No, I'm kidding. Everybody who's been on.
Okay, all right. I'm gonna go ahead and start messaging all our past guests.
Wait, I'll be the new guest on the show. Yes. No. Yes. No. Can't be doing that, man.
Scott, you're awesome.
Guy.
Okay.
Scott, tell people where they can find you and stuff.
Social media, shout out. See, I just spoke over you.
You know.
I'm not. There's a lot. I'm old and I'm foolish and I get it. I do a little Instagram. I do a little bit of Twitter. But that's really it. You can find me on there and say hi. It might take me 2 months to get back to you, but you can say hi. I think it's Scott, a.k.a. The Real Flick.
Awesome.
I think that's what it is on Twitter, I think, or Instagram. I don't even remember.
You got any appearances coming up in January, February, March?
March, I'm going to be in St. Louis. I'm going to be at a gig in St. Louis. I don't remember the name of the show right now, but I know I'm going.
We will find
maybe
that.
Maybe go to Florida. I don't know.
Hey, right. I'm down in Florida. Come on down.
Yeah, keep us posted, and we'll post that stuff up for you, too. So,
you got it.
Scott, it's been a pleasure having you on tonight, man. Thank you for coming on and sharing some time with us.
Same. You guys have a happy and healthy, and tell Richard I said, hey, he's one of my old homies. I love the guy.
You got it. We'll stick around if you feel like it. But we're going to put you down in the lobby, and thank you so much for coming in, man.
You guys got it. Happy New Year, too.
Same to you.
Peace out, Joe. Stay well, buddy. Hang in there. Hang in there.
Oh, sorry. That was a damn computer glitch. No, I'm kidding, Scott. I didn't intentionally mean to cut you off.
Oh, see what happens when you fuck with the guy who pushes the buttons?
Right. I got a mute button for your mic, don't I?
Nope.
Oh. Okay. Wow. Libby. Hi, Libby. We love Libby.
Hey, Libby.
And her husband. They are awesome. Thank you, Libby. I'm
Shout
just
out
looking.
Everybody out there, Lance, Samantha.
Lance, Chuck, Steve,
Sean.
Anthony. Looking.
Anthony.
Smithson Creations Handcrafted Woodworking.
That's Sean. That's my buddy Sean. He's badass.
And Lang Ross.
Ross, what's up? Are you here? Awesome. Hello, everybody. Well, everybody who has been here, I hope you've been having fun so far. Season finale, Romero Pictures, Indie Brigade, Season 1 finale, episode finale.
We just had Scott Schwartz on, and we're soon going to have Richard Grieco and Michael Mandaville.
Yes, we are.
Oh, wait. You got to read one thing that Lance said. It's not in a foreign language, George.
It's just not coming out.
For those that can't see it says hashtag Joe has the power.
You, Joe.
Hey, there's Matt.
Hey, Matt.
All right, I'm going to bring Richard up because people are done with this. They want a guy with good hair and nice chops and everything. So without further ado, there he is.
Richard Grieco.
Hey, guys.
How's it going, brother?
Good, brother. How you doing?
I'm good. Happy holidays to you. Thank you for coming on tonight.
Oh, my pleasure, guys.
You look like you're sitting in front of a nice fire.
Oh, do what I did. I actually did a nice kind of candle to kind of have it flicker, and I could do
enjoy
this,
that.
like right here. It's really nice.
I enjoy that.
I'm going to bow down so you guys can have at it. Call me if you need me. Seriously.
How's it going tonight, man? Are you good?
Good, man. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm really happy you're here tonight. You know, we've become dear friends, and beyond that, we talk a lot about the business, and we talk a lot about the art of what we do. We talk about the inner creative of what we do, and we talk about a lot about just the different ways to kind of do what we do. And for anybody who doesn't know, which I think most of our viewers probably know, you've just done a film called Clinton Road, and you just directed that film, and you've just got another one that's in post now, and so you're doing the indie horror film thing now, and that's what I think is really fucking cool, man. And I just kind of want to talk to you about it a little bit and find out, you know, why you decided to kind of jump into the indie horror world. It's an interesting sandbox for someone to dive into, you know. I mean, why you did it and what was it like for you?
Well, it was one of those things where it was kind of something that happened over time. I doing so many films, you kind of learn what goes on behind the scenes as far as production, directing, and this and that, and doing big studio films too. But I think I learned a lot on actually like doing series television because of the grind and the short span of time you had to shoot an episode. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I think, and then I just wanted more control over things, and I wanted projects that I wanted to do where either directing it or producing it, having a control mechanism that the end product is what you actually saw to do, you know, instead of leaving it up to someone else to just do anything they want, just being a hired hand, you know. I mean, it's I mean, doing like as you well know, doing a independent film, you got to raise the money, which is in itself an arduous process. I think, you know, and then you don't want to get 25 investors, as you all know. You like to get one or two, and then once you get that in, and then start the process, you know, even though you hire a bunch of people, like PAs and production assistants and line producers and everything, you tend to take the burden on yourself to handle everything. Anything goes wrong, it's you. You know, anything that happens, it's on you. If craft service doesn't bring the right food, you know, you gotta go. Okay, what do you guys want? You know, let me. You know, so, but there's something about doing, and I find I've always been a huge horror nut, anyways, and there's something about the horror genre that I think with people. In sci-fi, there's an escapism in it, you know, and for me, it's a point of view where you can express a dark side of yourself, you know, and where you couldn't necessarily do it in real life, and in that respect, and then, you know, you only have like someday, you know, a lot of movies you have. Like Clinton Road, when we directed that, we had 17 days to shoot. That's it. And we were shooting in New Jersey around Clinton Road, but we had to bring people in from New York, in the city. So it was 40 miles. And, you know, it was a SAG-AFTRA thing. So basically it was, you got 8 hours portal to portal, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, you know, how are you going to do this, you know? Craft service gets mentioned a lot. Yes, it does.
Well, it's one of the, you know, people joke about it, but it's actually super important to feed your crew. I mean, you know, a happy crew is a well-fed crew, and a well-fed crew is a happy crew. You know what I mean?
Craft service and catering, man. You gotta make sure it's really good stuff.
I'll tell you, man. You have like a day where you have shitty food, or you're like, or it's second meal, and you're like, oh, it's second meal, we got to order pizzas. Man, you'll never get anything done. Your whole grip department, your whole electric department, they'll all just be pissed off. They're like, fucking pizza again, you know, and they just don't want to, you know, they don't feel like you're respecting them. And, you know, so you got to have respect for your crew. They're the ones making your movie. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah. I mean, that's the key. I mean, my whole thing is always make sure that the crew is happy, everyone's happy, and directing. You know, making sure, especially with sensitive stuff, with especially women. You know, just to make sure they trust you. You know, so basically, if it's like in Clinton Road, we had a sex scene in the woods, so I would. You know, I do a lot of things in close-ups and stuff and this and that. And I would show the actors, you know, how does this look? How do you like this? I mean, you know, because, I mean, the end game is going to be her looking. You don't want her to go, I look so ugly, or why did you do this shot? Because I've seen sex scenes, and I'm sure you have too, that they shoot it with like a wide angle. And they're like this, you know, and don't get the, I mean, the less you show, I think the sexier it is.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's one of the cardinal rules of filmmaking, and I think that you know that has spilled over. You know, I mean, there's kind of some universal cinematography rules, right? Like smoke is fucking sexy.
Yeah.
Less is more when it comes to actual sex. Those are the things that kind of created the precedent in the industry that, you know, I think has gone a little bit past, you know, the way it used to be, and it's not necessarily always done tastefully these days. But, you know, you bring up an interesting point about gaining trust and making sure that you're trustworthy on set to make sure everybody feels safe. You know, I mean, I got a question for you. Coming from the background that you come from with the massive films that you did, especially when you were doing them and we weren't in sort of this 2019 sort of new age of it all, you know, how much different was it on some of the bigger films, you know, when it comes to things like actor safety and actor trust and all that other stuff?
Oh, there I am.
Oh,
yeah, I'm back.
Joe, your mic's muted.
Okay, that's a good thing. He froze up for a second, so we lost the feed.
So what'd you say? Okay. What'd you say, brother?
So what I was saying is, you know, with some of the big films that you've done, and especially when you were doing them, it was before this whole 2019, the way things are approached now. What's the big differences between like those big films and sort of gaining actor trust and safety with regard to today? How much more or less, you know, like how would you compare that kind of experience between the two sizes of productions that you've done and that you were used to?
I think you know, doing the bigger films, I mean, you got a crew of what 140 people.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's stretched out. I mean, in a span of like 3.5, 4 months of shooting. So I found like in Mobsters, that was like a 4-month shoot. Just keeping within character of like playing Benny Siegel, because I would shoot, you know, pretty much every day for like a month and have like a month off.
Yeah.
You know? And like in a big film, like the DP could go look at the sky and go, I really don't like those clouds. You know, those clouds up there. I go, what cloud? Those up there, those white ones. I go, yeah. He goes, I'd really like to see a nice clean sky. And he wouldn't shoot.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I mean, that's like what? $150,000 a day.
Yeah.
People hanging around. I
mean, I know. It's literally, it's such a waste of money at that level, at that budget level, you know. I mean, and on the one hand, I get it, because if the DP sees it that way and the director sees it that way, I absolutely get it if you have the money to spend and ways to do that kind of shit. But on the other hand, having never had that luxury in my life, you know what I mean? Like I can never even imagine what it would be like to be like, I think we'll take a break for a day and wait for that cloud to look like a bunny rabbit.
Yeah, pretty much.
You know, but now you're directing, and now you've done Clinton Road, and you've got Killer Selfie coming up. And what do you like better? Do you like the stuff, the big budget stuff, or do you like doing it this way? Because I know that, and I want to talk about your art too. I want to talk about your painting. I feel like since I've gotten to know you, that this is more the real you. Like, this is the real artist you gets to come out in this indie world a lot more than anybody ever got to see before. Am I right or wrong there?
No, I think you're right. I mean, it's just being on the directing end or the producing end, and seeing things from the beginning to end and seeing it to fruition. I mean, I think it's more gratifying. I mean, I look at it. I mean, because especially painting, you start with a blank canvas, and the thing about artwork is it's entirely yours. I mean, it's entirely your emotion. It can't be screwed up by an editor or if music A&R guys, or it can't be screwed up by a studio where they go, you know what, this whole scene here, we're at 1 hour and we're at 116 minutes. Can we cut it down to 109?
Right.
Just to get an extra, space in the theater. In this respect, you have total control, and it's more of you, more a part of you. I mean, yeah, it's really tough, and there's a lot of heartbreak in it, and you got to have a thick skin with a lot of the stuff. But I think in the end, once it's a finished product, down the road, it was truly, something that you were totally invested in instead of just being a hired hand. Pretty much, like, hey, let's get Richard Grieco in this, and use his name. You go on there for 2 days and shoot, and then you're gone. And it feels like,
right? Yeah, it's cheaper. Feels cheaper, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because you did compare it to sort of the painting and everything, and like. So when you direct film, you've got this more pure representation of your inner creative. But I know, and I don't know if a lot of people know, but you do paint. You do some phenomenal paintings, and I guess maybe what I'm curious about is, at what point in your life did you decide that this was what you needed to help yourself sort of stay sane?
Yeah, staying sane is a big thing. I mean, it's amazing that you think about it. I've been doing this since, 30 something years, and I'm still doing it, and I'm still. Some things that I think my normality is my abnormality in Hollywood. I really do. It seems like the more normal you are, the more ostracized you are. I've never followed the whole Hollywood stuff. I mean, shit, I still probably dress the same way I did back in '89 as I do now. Probably the same. I'm probably wearing the same shit right now. But
you still got those LA gears?
No, I don't have those LA gears. No, I don't have those LA gears. Fuck.
Sorry.
No, that was product placement. Actually, we were the first ones. I think LA Gear just came out, right?
Yeah.
And then they told me that they're going to stick on the wall with the, shoes that climb down walls, but, and that was Intravision, by the way. That was Intravision. Remember that was out for just like a cup of coffee. It was out. Where you actually saw what you were doing.
Yeah.
You could actually see the helicopter and everything. It wasn't like put in afterwards.
Yep.
It was it was pretty crazy. Worked with the Cross Wars. That was a fun movie. Cross Wars 3. But anyway, Killer Shelfie, I produced that with my friend Dan Frank, and he directed that. He wrote it, and it was it was a movie about, because all these young kids were off of themselves by taking selfies, and and we came up with an idea. Well, he did, of coming up with a movie about a guy who comes up with an app called Killer Selfie, meaning the metaphorical killer selfie, the best selfie ever, you know. And basically, the more they use the app, they make money, but the more they use it, the closer they get to death, you know. And I thought it was a neat kind of thing. And actually, we did it. We shot it in, I think, 15 days. You know, Debony Pin's in it, Kirk Fox is in it, I'm in it, Dan's in it, Carlos Ramirez is in it. So we got a really good cast, you know. We did a lot of stuff, and when you work with as you know, with a minimal budget, you got to really accent. I mean, lighting is so key to make it look rich, you know.
Sure.
And I, even on Clinton Road with John Hudak, I made sure that, you know, I mean, I wanted everything with heavy blue hues, you know, and everyone was just like, I don't know. I mean, is that going to work, you know? And it just made the movie look and feel like you could almost eat it, you know. It was like texture. Yeah. And come from a place of painting and being a big texture guy, I think that goes with as far as how I direct and see things and visualize things, you know. So,
well, I think that's important, and you know what I think is important that I'd like to key on there that you said is the fact that you actually do that stuff practically on set instead of necessarily just doing it all digitally, you know. And I do that too. I'm big into that. Like, I throw filters on the lenses, you know, because I'd rather make that decision on set than necessarily go and punch buttons. You know, I want the editor. If I want it blue, I want the editor to get it blue. I don't want the editor to be able to click in Photoshop and say, how about this blue or that blue?
Yeah, there's nothing better than practical, you know.
Yeah,
it really is not. I mean, it really is not. I mean, if you look at, like, even in the Star Wars, if you look at the first, not the first three in the story, the first three movies, the first one was all practical stuff. I mean, model this and that, and it still holds up today. I mean, like, you know, and then when they did,
Joe, your mic's muted.
I know, I was hitting the button. See, every time he drops out, he connects again. He'll be back in 1 second.
Standing by.
Yeah.
There you go.
Hey, Joe.
There he is.
Hello.
So you're talking Star Wars. You said it holds up today.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I mean, like on Clinton Road, they had all these things that they wanted to do with, like, the blood and this and all this stuff. And I was just like, you know, it doesn't work anymore. The whole, I mean, it's, especially in the age range of 18 to 25, it's like, it doesn't scare them anymore.
Right.
I mean, the scariest movies are leaving up to the imagination, and like we did the scenes where you know it's there, but you really don't, and you know it's coming, and you don't show it. I mean, a perfect example in Jaws, when the shark didn't work. I mean, you just heard the music. That's it.
Yeah.
And that was scary as shit.
Right.
You know, so.
Absolutely. You know, look at the first Alien film. Half the scariest shit in the first Alien film is the shit you don't see.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more, man. You know, and but you know, what I love is I love your approach. You know, I love your approach to your art, and I love the approach that you have to filmmaking, and I love the approach that you take to your painting. And you know, and I love that we're friends, man, because I got to tell you, you know, the conversations we've had, you've really helped me figure out some stuff with my inner creative that was going on. And I know we've had a lot of talks about some stuff that we've both been working on. And for anybody who's watching, you know, there's some things to look out for, actually, that the two of us have talked about and are in the works to try to bring to you. So I'm very excited about that. And I'm happy that you're here tonight and a part of this, man. And, you know, the Brigade is about something more than just another podcast. You know what it's about because we've talked about it. But, you know, it's something that I hope that you're going to be cool with bringing some of your experience to our little Facebook group, and, you know, maybe offering up some experience if people are stuck or struggling. You know, I mean, one of the things that you and I talk about the most, and I'm just going to, you know, talk about it from my own point of view is the struggle that our inner creatives go through, or me anyway. I talk to you a lot about it, and that's just trying to get to so much happens that makes me want to stop trusting my inner creative's instincts. You know what I mean? When I'm writing, it makes me want to stop trusting it and all that stuff. And that's a big struggle for me. And I know that you and I have talked about this a lot. And, I'm just wondering, like, where do you fall when stuff like that happens? When you're starting to question your own inner creative and your own gut instincts when it comes to your art, how do you battle that?
It's funny. And you hit it right on the mark. There's a constant struggle of the creativity and the trust, and is it right? And I think, and also, I mean, there's another side of like trusting anybody that's in this business. You really don't. So you become very provincial, very closed in that sense. But I think in the creative part of that, being that closed off to that part and not trusting anyone, it comes out in your work as far as making movies or painting or singing or writing or whatever. I think if we got to a point where we thought we were doing it great and it really was great, then I think we'd be screwing ourselves. I think that constant struggle, you know what I mean? That constant struggle of never being satisfied and always being like, is it really that good? Is it really that good? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
And I think that self-doubt keeps me and keeps you and a lot of filmmakers on edge, and because if you ever lose that edge, I think you're lost. I think you might as well just give it up.
Yeah, I agree. And if you don't know about the edge that we're talking about, it's a tricky thing to find, that edge. But there are certain, I don't know. I dedicated a large portion of my younger life to finding that edge,
right,
and looking over it and kind of dangling a foot off the edge of it and wondering, and it's crazy. I've pushed myself to such limits with my creativity and with the life that I led to nurture that. And I know that you have too, man. And, I wouldn't trade a fucking minute of my life. You know what I mean?
I know. Me neither. I mean, all this stuff. I mean, even the 4 years I took off after Mobsters, people were like, why would you turn down all these movies and all these movies and all these movies? It just because I look back at it now in hindsight, maybe, like I turned down Speed, because I read the script and it looked like, I go, this is like Die Hard on a bus.
Yeah.
Unbeknownst to me that the script I had wasn't the one that was actually going to be done when the film got made. Was the bus actually moved? The original script, the bus never moved.
Yeah,
it was right there in the parking lot. I'm like, and it was 1990, so I was the perfect cast perfect person to cast because I was a cop on the show, and the guy's a cop, So, and then I took 4 years off, and then again I took time off like about 7 years ago, just to paint.
Oh, we got a question for you from Dean. Is actually the vice president of acquisitions and distribution for Romero Pictures now. You and I have talked about a little bit about what's going on here, so he's asking you flat out. Who's just love you, Dean? Who's distributing Clinton Road?
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Are the Dead, as far as theatrical in Europe, I'm not sure. Clinton Road, right now we're looking to distribute that in Europe right now as far as a worldwide release. So we're going through different people and stuff like that. I'm not sure yet who's going to release that. I just, the cut that's there, I'll be honest with you, is I thought it needed another 6 minutes, but it is what it is. But it turned out to be a pretty good film.
Well, I know somebody with a distribution company.
Well, we'll talk about it.
Not putting you on the spot or anything. Yes, I am. No, listen. Oh, he froze again. Damn it, Joe. And you didn't unmute your mic last time you came up here, Joe.
Yeah, it wasn't worth me talking.
But you were mouthing words.
Yeah, and I get in trouble for interrupting, so.
Richard's frozen again.
You know, Joe should be seen and not heard, apparently.
What were you? Did you need something?
No, I don't need anything.
No, I went off, didn't I, Joe? I froze.
You did.
You got some comments and questions, maybe? Is that what you popped up here to go over?
Dean's question is what I was trying to bring up.
Oh.
And you already saw that because I pulled it up. But
yeah.
just keep in mind that this is your season finale and you have other people waiting.
This is very true. Thank you, Joe. Richard Grieco, thank you so much for coming on tonight. Man, Joe was telling me that I've got a time schedule I've got to keep. So listen, is there anything that you want to tell people about, where they can find you, what they can follow, all that other stuff? And also, this won't be the last time you're on here. So
you can go to Real Richard Greek on Instagram, or Twitter, Richard Grieco. I got Dream Round coming out this January, February, and then we got Killer Selfie, then Attack of the Unknown, and hopefully you and I will start on our project in the spring.
That's what I'm hoping, man. That's what I'm hoping, brother. Listen, man, thank you so much for coming on. It really means the world to me. And you know, I'll talk to you before, but just in case, you know, have a good holiday, you know, and all those non-offensive terms and everything.
Really? And, those would be the things that would offend people here?
I don't know. So anyway, Merry Christmas to you, man. And I'll talk to you. I'll talk to you this weekend, brother. I love you, man. Thanks for coming.
We really do appreciate it. Thank you.
Later on.
Thank you.
Well, that was cool.
Yeah, Grieco is the man.
No doubt about it. And it seems like everybody in the chat wanted to be him at some point.
Yeah, I pretty much think, yeah, most people did. So that was pretty cool.
I mean, awesome. Especially you, probably with some hair envy. You're looking for it. I know you are. So. Yeah. All right.
Oh, man. All right. Good one. Joe's on it tonight. I'm just giving him some because it's the Christmas season, you know.
I've been crashing and burning all night long. You got to give me something.
Pick your digs, Joe. Merry Christmas to you.
Yes, Merry Christmas. Well, we do have Michael Mandaville on, and yes, I will let you introduce him right now.
Michael Mandaville.
Hey.
How are you?
Good. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
You too. Everybody on screen has already met. Michael and I go back years. Michael Mandaville is a dear friend of mine, and dare I say, the man who mentored me to budget and schedule films the proper way and not like an idiot like I used to do.
Now that's one of the better introductions I've had, I think, in the reality of film production world.
Michael, you are responsible for the budgets and for line producing on some very big films. You know, I think maybe if you've got a little rundown about yourself, you don't mind throwing out there, I'd just let you just kind of give yourself, tell everybody a little bit about yourself and let them know who you are, and then we'll just dive into some stuff.
Sounds great. Primarily, I work as a producer, line producer, unit production manager. I'm in the Directors Guild, the Producers Guild, the Screen Actors Guild, and I worked on all the Taken films as a line producer here in the United States with Luc Besson, and started in the business forever ago. I've always been in the business all my life. My Aunt Molly was in the business with Daryl F. Zanuck at 20th Century Fox. So I kind of grew up on the lot there. And I'm a bondable line producer, which is an important aspect about film budgeting because you want to be able to assure the financiers that the film will be completed and delivered, etc. So that's an important component of that. I've worked on films like Havoc with Annie Hathaway, Taken Movies, American History X, Independent Fair, also directed documentaries, webisode series, a couple low budget features I think we might touch on, etc. And let's see, I really enjoy the idea of exploring production methods and filmmaking with a calculator, so that you're actually going to be able to make your film. I like trying out new kinds of software in different arenas. And so that's kind of is that good enough? Did I pass?
Yeah, that's perfect, man. You know, I'll never forget when Brian actually introduced us. We were sitting up at Guido's, and and he was like, "Hey, I want you guys to meet." And we were like, within 30 seconds, Brian was like, "Well, I'm going to leave."
Yeah, that's right. He completely bailed. He was like, "Okay, job done. Moving on." You know,
And
very funny.
I think we were there until the place closed.
We worked for hours.
Yeah, talking
hours.
about exactly what you're saying, which is different approaches and unique approaches to something that is done on a large scale in the industry on a daily basis, and ways to kind of sort of up the lower budget and more fringe independent quality by simply applying some larger thinking to some smaller spaces. And I think that was the topic that we ultimately went down like a 9-hour rabbit hole together over several.
That was definitely of a preeminent note, I would say. How's that? Was that a good one? Is that a good fancy term to trot out, I suppose?
So, you know, what I'd like to just touch on is a little bit about your thoughts on that from the standpoint of, you know, applying there's a reason that large films operate the way they operate. And yes, everybody says, oh, they waste money and they waste pay and all this other stuff. But at the end of the day, there's an efficiency that comes from operating the way that they operate, that while it obviously can't be applied to a $300 or $400 or $100,000 budget film, the same kind of thinking can be applied, correct?
Yes, absolutely. As a slight precursor to our discussion, I would say I recently went to attended the American film market, and things were a bit dour. I think that basically that's driven by the fact that films that aren't, they're $10 million, $20 million movies are having a tough place in the market to get a theatrical release, and therefore it's harder to justify that kind of money without a theatrical release. And then the other. There's long part of that I'm sure we could detail more and more, but there were people that said, we may not come back to the AFM. We may do it in a different manner. The other is Rogue Sutherland of CAA Media Finance, who's been in this finance game for 17 years, said American films are way too high and they have to come down by 50%, not 5, 10, 15, 20, 50. So these are pretty industry standard, even outside the indie realm, but in some ways, but at the same time, they're certainly recognizing the financial reality in the feature film world. And so when we talk about that, how do you actually craft a film? Well, for one thing, I think what you have to do is remember what is a film. And some people seem to forget with the complexity of logistics. They get so much in transpo, so much in crewing up. And when I worked in France, it's kind of interesting. They will sit and say, well, if you don't need somebody on the crew, don't hire them. In the US, we have minimum staffing in the unions. So you must have a 3-man sound crew. You must have 5 in the camera department, et cetera, et cetera. So the advantage to the guerrilla entrepreneurial filmmaker, and I think there's a great title in there, the guerrilla entrepreneurial filmmaker, right? I think that's true. And
I like it.
A way to look at it. But when you're crafting a film that's $400,000, ultimately it comes down to what's your composition in the frame, and what is your actors, and their performances real, and are they well cast? And so many directors will say, 90% of the acting is having good casting.
Yeah.
And so if you are indefatigable in trying to find the right, and I will say cooperative actors for that budget range, if they don't show up on time, you're in a lot of trouble. So you have to kind of go with that. But I think if you're really thinking, like, if I were to take a film that's a couple $100,000, I'd say, well, what is the fulcrum of the film? What is the essence of it, where I can actually lay out the schedule and say, wow, I'm going to be at this one place for, let's say, 15 days of shooting. If you're lucky, and some of these. But, well, what's 5 days or 7 days, and am I able to be in one spot and get 1, 2, or 3 locations out of it? So I could be at my house, but does the house function as house A? Does the garage at that house function as house B, house number 2? And is the backyard, can it be changed around to look like house 3? Now, I haven't left the house, but there's a lot of enormous logistical advantages to, one, people won't get lost. They show up every day to the right spot. Okay, which is actually necessary.
That's like getting your name right on the SATs.
That's it. That is exactly what it is. And all of a sudden you're like, "But you were here yesterday. Why aren't you here again? We're going to repeat this for 7 days or something." So can you get that right? The other is that you can have a hot set. So you can essentially leave everything the way it is, have it dressed, and then you can actually get 10, 11 hours of work done, 12, whatever works, at your one location. So what you're doing is incrementally buying more and more time to get the performances right and the shots right. And I see so many people that don't get performances, from my point of view, think they were miscast or not, didn't have enough time to do something. You also, having that anchor, you have a rehearsal space that people are going to know. Theoretically, it's a house you're at. So if you really rehearse people and have a script reading, I think a couple of weeks or something, or whatever you can manage for rehearsal, 2 weeks or something, they start to really live the characters.
That's right.
You're probably not going to shoot a visual effects science fiction movie on this kind of a budget. It's more of a drama, more of a could be a crime thriller. Could be, there's one I'm going to work on, which has to do, ultra low budget, it has to do with espionage, which is a thriller. It's a dramatic thriller in a way. And so I think I'd have that anchor point. And then composition, you could really start to map it out with the software that people have. So when you are getting shots in depth, movement in the background, or very nice moves on a gimbal or a slider, you can really, again, if it's your house or a friend's house or whatever the location is, you can go there and practice that. You can actually practice and go, oh, that didn't work. Oh, I got to change things. So you can hone your game plan.
And all of that contributes to the better quality of that composition of the frame. Everything goes toward that. And at the end of the day, all of the logistical decisions that you've made, all of the practical scheduling and company move and all of those other decisions you've made, they do nothing besides all of the great stuff they do for you logistically for the production. They allow the actors to settle into a place, I think. And like you were saying, but I think that makes them feel a little bit safer with their character as well, almost more like they're at home. And you know, because when you jostle a production around, it's a giant movable beast. And it doesn't matter how big or small your film is. It's still, even if you've got 10 people in a cast of 3, you're still moving lights, you're still piling everybody in cars, and you're throwing your actors out of the moment that they're trying to keep. So, you know, all of everything that Michael and I talk about is designed to give you a better frame, a better final frame when you press record on that camera. But, you know, the other thing that you brought up that was interesting was this type of film. And this is going to kind of lead us into your filmmaking with a calculator, because, you know, and we've talked about this too. If you're going to make a $1 million movie, write a $1 million movie. Yeah. If you're going to make a $20 million movie, write a $20 million movie. If you're going to make a $50,000 movie, write a $50,000 movie. And this is where the filmmaking with a calculator comes in. And this is something that you've been working on for years. It's a theory of yours. And I remember talking about you when you were formulating it like a madman, and it was awesome.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I know you were, you and I were dialed in very specifically on a reality check here about, I mean, and I can't even tell you how many times someone will give me a script, and I don't even know how many budgets I've done. Couple thousand, 3,000. I can't even tell you actually, but most of the time someone will say, here's the script, and you could do this for 5 million. And inevitably I'm like, okay, sure. We'll see. And it comes out to 7, 8. And then they start to give you numbers like, well, yes, the script is $300,000 and the actor should be $1 million. And I mean, when you start to add it up and go through the union process, I've almost never had anybody give me a correct number and match it. And that's because of the complexities of those particular productions in all the union elements that come into play. It could be an area standards agreement in Georgia, which is less than full feature in Los Angeles or certainly New York. But it's all the little moving parts that people don't think about.
Right.
So you get extras. Okay. So are they showing up and having at what time? Are they going to have breakfast? Okay, there's a hit. You have to have extra bathrooms. You have to have assistant directors. If it's 100 extras, yes. Then you have more props. So do you have an extra props person on there? You need more parking because every single person, now you have theoretically 100 cars to show up. Where do those cars go? You need security guards for those cars. So you can see it's a domino effect of what are your choices? In which case, something like that, for example, if you are writing $1 million film or 100, to get back to your question there, and your point is, or 500, whatever the number is, you might say, I'm going to have 20 extras that I'm paying. I'm going to have 80 friends show up for 2 hours. Okay. Family and friends, 2 hours, because they will get bored. They will leave. They still love you. They will leave. And that's all there is to it. That is all there is to it. One way or the other, they got to go pick up Aunt Clara, or their kids are out of school. There's a reason, and they still love you, but they will leave.
Yep.
So, you get the wide shot with everybody, be ready, and then you go down to the table in the corner, whatever's going on. But I've seen that, and just recently, this last summer, there was a film in Atlanta I was working on as representing the financier in the production company, and it was about a family from India in the U.S., a little culture clash between Indians from India and their daughter, much more Americanized. So a culture clash setup. Well, when you have all these extras, you actually have to get people from India in Atlanta, and it's a very tight-knit, small community. And I don't think there's more than, I'm going to guess, 10 to 15, maybe, that were professional extras. Mm-hmm. So everybody else was, can you come? And yes, we'll pay you, but they're a doctor, they're an engineer, or whatever they are, or work at a bank, or I don't know, whatever it is. But this is not what they do, and they're not much interested. It was more a fun thing.
Yeah. So
it creates challenges. But when you have that script for $1 million, $500,000, or 50,000 or 100, indeed, if you want to go, you can shoot me along the guide path here if I get off the rails, but
not at all.
You're looking at genres and you want to say, what's the purpose of your film? Now, I shot a couple low budget films this last year, 2 years. I shot 2 ultra low budget films and a 10 episode web series myself, following this advice at my house, pretty much. And what's the purpose? Well, my purpose was to get into festivals and to get skills for directing, which are different than line producing skills.
That's right.
So that I'm fine with that. I actually have interest in one best screenplay at a festival, which I was really pleased with. And I may be able to get some distribution on them, but very, very, very modest money. But if I'm doing a film for 50 or 100 or 500 and somebody wants their money back, and I mean, you have a real investor here to do this, you select an international genre. You can look up Box Office Mojo, and you could see domestic and international films, how many films, 2/3 of their money's from overseas now, international, 1/3 in the US.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, the ones that sell are science fiction, of course, action, and thrillers are good. Comedies are tough to translate. You'll see on their Box Office Mojo that you're like, wow, there's a comedy, did $200,000 overseas while it did 50 million here. Right. So it's unique culturally. If you wanted to, do something like that, then I think let's pick a number. Let's see, how much money do we have for this script and to write a script for that? Which
are you asking me right now? Let's do a film for $54,000.
54 grand. Okay, boy.
And this is like that improv shit, right? Okay,
it really is.
$4,000 budget film, and it's a sci-fi drama about a hitman, and there are 3 death scenes in it.
Okay, so first of all, I'm probably going to want to say at $54,000, I'm going to try and see if I can shepherd away at least $7,500 into a contingency. I'm going to say I don't have that. I'm going to set it aside, and for 2 things. Number 1, reshoots or pickups. Maybe, might be $2,000 there, but that is going to really help your film once you're done editing. And once you actually have it assembled, obviously, and you start to look at it, you go, oh, I wish I had this or that. Well, if you actually have a little money to go get extra shots here or there, I think it can improve. It might be 2 minutes of footage or 3 or 4 or, something. But all of a sudden, I think it's going to substantially improve the quality of your film by 20, 30, 40%, let's say. And again, I'm just doing the math here. I'm a math logistical guy, etc. So that's why I'm thinking.
No, this is what I'm trying to get people to learn about. This is how when you come up with a script, or this is how I think, and I credit you completely with this. Whenever I write a script or have an idea for anything, you've taught me how to think about that script before I ever write fade in.
There we are. Yeah,
that's kind of what I'm trying to teach people about a little bit. But so you're saying, so you start by taking out your contingency. You start by planning for the end of the film, because by the time you edit the film, you're going to look at it and say, well, shit, I wish I would have had an extra shot of him punching that guy in the face.
It's going to happen. It is going to happen. And
1,000% it'll happen.
And actually, there's an enormous advantage because, I mean, I went and saw a friend of mine after American History X was working on a Mel Gibson movie called Payback. And it's Mel Gibson. And so I went to visit him on the set at Universal. And they were doing, I'm going to venture to say by recollection, 15 to 20 days of reshoots. Those aren't pickups. So they have that advantage because it was a Mel Gibson movie at the time. But when you start to think of the digital world and the versatility you have, you could go out and get a friend, shoot a shot with them holding the scripts in hand and going, does that scene work? I mean, literally, Michael and Cameron go out, hey, we'll go with Joe. Joe, you shoot us. Okay, I'm going to read from the damn script. I'm not memorizing it, but but I'm going to pretend to shoot Cameron, and he'll shoot back, and we fall over, and you go, hey, did the shot work? You can actually pre-shoot it. You could storyboard it. You can actually start to do things like that. So there's 2 phases. One is going from the back end of the film. Here's the money. Take money out for contingency. Take money out for some reshoots. What kind of editing platform are you going to use? I'm assuming Adobe Creative Cloud is the one I switched over to for a lot of reasons, and I really, really like that. And then what I would do is start to kind of come into my prep phase and go, okay, I got the script, and I'd look at the logistics. So if I'm going to shoot and 54 grand, I'm going to say, well, let's just shoot 10 days for right now. But sometimes what you could do is say, I got 10 days with my main crew, and let's say it's the hitman, it's sci-fi. The hitman is in a house, and he encounters the person he's supposed to hit. He realizes, oh my God, is an alien. And you go, oh my God, I mean, bullets are not working. But he's still got the contract to kill this guy. And if he doesn't, then he's dead. Like, so we now put him in a pressure cooker, but bullets aren't working. So he's in the house hiding. He has to hide somewhere in this house, I guess, or in the estate. So now you actually have these moments where you go, it's the guy hiding in the attic. Why do I need 27 people to do that? You don't. So, right, it's ridiculous. So if you say, well, he's hiding in, I'm going to make this up, of course, it's 90-page script. I'm going to have 10 or 12 pages of this guy hiding. Well, I can actually take that on the schedule and say, here's 10 or 12 pages with my 2 or 3 man crew. I don't need 8 or 10 people. So now I've kind of taken it off the main boards, and I know I could get that. And I did that with one of my low budget films. I've done it with films that were $3-4 million. I've said, look, we're shooting here, but it's so low key. Then we'll bring in the rest of the crew. So keep it very, very, even $3-4 million. I did it on a number of films because why stock up when you don't need to?
That's right.
So it's equally applicable to films $3, $4, $5, $10 million. I mean, whatever. This is just a principle of efficiency. So let's take that off the boards. Now we're down to, 78 pages. Okay, now I've got my real 10 days. I've got 2 days of shooting the guy hiding. So now I'm down to 78. That's 7.8, roughly 7 6/8 pages a day, which is a bit daunting. So now what I have to do is I look at that script and go, okay, at what point does the person who lives there, that guy's the alien, and he's the one he can't kill, and he's got maybe he's trying to integrate into the Earth society, so he's got roommates. So now I got a chance to go, how many conversations does this guy have with a roommate to pretend he knows him before he kills him? Okay, again, making up crazy shit here. Right. I assume I can cuss. Is that okay?
You can fucking say whatever you want.
Okay.
I'm going to pause there because we're doing this audio. We're doing these audio podcasts, so I want to remind everybody that this is the Indie Brigade, Romero Pictures Indie Brigade. This is George C. Romero, and I'm talking with Michael Mandaville right now.
So now we got these roommate discussions, in which case now I could start to segment those. Where are those going to take place? And it's one-on-one, so you maybe get more intensity. And you have a day when you start to knock off these pieces. And when you're working with one actor and 2 actors, you can start to get a rhythm and efficiency that makes the 7 6/8 pages a day, which can be daunting, possible. You can also craft it to go, I know I don't have time for 72 setups here, okay? To get these number of pages, how am I going to use the second camera? So I actually got these cameras, and I mean, look, I was even using this, and this is just one example. I got this Sony A6300. Now, this particular camera, it's 4K. The picture is stunning. It's not a hyper fancy camera by any stretch, but I got 2 of them. So now they perfectly match. I could set it up, and the lenses could be the same. And so when you have 2 angles, and I use that in that ultra low budget feature, I'd have an A and B camera, and you figure out places where to hide them. So there'll be a chair, and maybe in an L shape, you put one camera at the end of the L. There's a chair there where the actor's near the L, and then there's a camera farther at the other side of the L. So I have a 90-degree shot. And people can learn that and play to camera. So now I've at least got 2 edits within this 7 6/8 page day.
Right.
So now we've got, let's say, 3 people in we have somebody on sound, we have somebody doing the camera, a griptrician, and Cameron directing. And so now we have 3 people, and we got to come up with their pay rate. So let's just say, for the sake of logistics, we're going to say each is $200 a day. So now see, I'll actually got my back of my envelope here. I'll start to do things on.
Oh, man, Got the back of the envelope, man. We're going deep.
So if I have, let's say 2 days here of the, what do we call it? The hiding guy. Okay. Sure. And so that's 200. And let's just say that's 2 days times, we have a crew of 3, plus the director, that's 4. And, 2 actors, that's 6. So we're at 1,200. That's $2,400 there. So, and if we kind of go up to another 10 days times 200, and let's add 4 more actors, that's 10, and 5 more to the crew. So that's 15. So we're going to have, again, I'm just doing the envelope here. So now we actually start to parse it down to go, okay, now what's the actual math? Now, as far as the cameras go, as you and I know, we don't want to rent those if we can avoid it, if you can buy them. But if you can, depending on what you're going to shoot, if you're going to use the Sony a6300 I have, I actually bought a Sony NEX FS100 a couple years ago. The camera, the lens that it came with was okay, but then I was able to get EF mount lenses, really nice ones. The sensor was amazing to me. I mean, literally, it could read into the dark on this thing. It was amazing. So I really bought it for the sensor. It was a bit boxy, blah, blah, blah. Ergonomically, not great. It was okay. But it was small enough, and it could pick up, and I could do a lot of work with only small supplemental lights. In fact, one of my lights was this kick light.
I have like 3 of those.
Yeah, these are great, aren't they?
And I use them for everything.
Yeah.
I literally light entire scenes with those things.
You can control them from your phone.
Yep.
So, this is the kind of planning that I think you start to think about your camera. Now, the nice part is if you settle on your camera, when you have to do those pickups, you don't have to go rent it. It depends on what you want to do. I find sometimes I've seen people rent an Alexa and put a lot of money in that, but they don't have the technicians to support it.
Right.
And all of a sudden you're really worried about the camera and you're not getting the performances. So I think there's a balance point between what you want to do. But let's say if I go back here and I'm just going back and doing the math here, and so that's $3,000 times 10 days. That's like $30,000. So right now we're at 30,000 just for the crew. That's 32,400, and we are at 54, right?
Yeah.
So we're at 54,000. So I'm going to minus 7,500 for pickups, and that leaves me 5, 7, 4. That's 46, right? 46.5. Then I'd have. So I actually have about $14,100 to deal with food, feed people well, try and be nice about that. Craft service, etc. You can also get insurance, and if you are shooting this for a like a web series, you might be able to get a yearly policy for, depending on, let's say it's your house, for like 8 to 12, like what you're doing now, video podcasting, like eight maybe $1,200, $1,600 for a year.
Mm-hmm.
Now that
companies, a lot of private insurance agents will figure out how to creatively cover your production.
Yeah.
People don't realize that you don't have to call up like Hollywood Insurance Guys .whatever.
They can farm it out now.
Call up your State Farm guy. I'm just throwing that out as an example, but
no, you're absolutely right.
Literally call him up. I used to have a guy that I was with a company, and I would call him up, and he would come up with ways to insure my productions. And because I had other policies with them, it was really easy and really cheap, and I could just turn them on and off like hot and cold running water.
There you go. That's a great idea. I hadn't thought about that. I'd sussed out somebody who would deal with video podcasting.
Yeah.
And so that was the closest I got. But that's a great idea. And especially if you're already paying auto, home, et cetera, et cetera.
Exactly.
Will the guy bend on it? Sure.
Most of the time they'll do what they can to try to help you out.
Yeah.
But so what you've done so far, so you've got about 14,000 left over. You've still got to figure out insurance, and you've still got to figure out production design and props. And
sure.
So I mean, so we've got, but the point is that even with all of that stuff that you just outlined, there's still $14,000 to make all of that other stuff work.
Yeah.
And that can go a lot further than a lot of people realize too, and we're starting to get a lot of questions coming in for you. So I want to at some point get to those.
Sure, whatever you want.
But this all goes back to when you sit down to write your script, and this is filmmaking with a calculator. When you write your script, when you, Michael Mandaville, sits down to write a script and you write a scene where a guy walks into a kitchen, picks up, starts to make a ham sandwich, picks up a knife, kills an intruder, and goes back to making his ham sandwich. That's 5 very concise, small things. But when you, Michael, write that, you don't just think about the actor walking in and making a sandwich and killing a guy. No. You think about where are they going to park.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm thinking, where are they going to park? What are they going to bring? What day am I going to shoot that? Because I'm not going to pay for their ticket on my street on the Monday or Friday when they got to move their car. I'm not doing that. I'm not paying for tickets. Tell people up front, I'm not going to pay for tickets. Here's the sign.
Yeah.
You actually give them a card, put it on their dash, and go, I've told you about the parking. And so then they'd feel like real jerks, going, oh, I forgot. Are they really going to tell you about it? Because you're trying to nicely have them informed.
Right.
But at the same time, you have to be very careful with every nickel. So you're absolutely right. I think the biggest, if I were to say some of the things to consider in writing the script, would be obviously locations. When you actually have to cut down a script, and I actually had a film that had Russell Crowe attached, and they had to get it to a certain number, and it was set in Pittsburgh, and they had to get it to a certain number. And in general, the things you're going to cut from it going from 15 to, I think it was 14, something like that, for 13 and a half, it was some odd number like that. You're going to cut the schedule. So from 35 days to 30, you're going to cut an actor, or you're going to cut a major location. In general, if somebody lops a ton of money into music, obviously you're going to, dial that back. But by and large, those are the 3 areas that you can deal with. So how many actors do you have? What's your location? And that's where I'd start writing the script. Once you have the location, you have a massive advantage. People go, "Oh, I'm gonna write a script on a cruise ship." You friggin' own a cruise ship? Are you out of your mind? You got a friend with a bar. You got a friend with a gas station. A guy who operates tow trucks. Now there's a great sense of a scam, or car gets towed. You towed the wrong guy's car. He comes in, takes you hostage, because in the back of his car is $1 million, $10 million, right? So money stolen from the mob. You could start to work a story, find the enthusiasm in the story that you can make happen. Some people get these ideas going, it's got to be on a cruise ship or the Empire State Building or God knows what, and you have no access to that. So you've actually set yourself up. Write that story, put it on your computer, and just put it in a little folder called "Someday I'm Going to Do This." And in the meantime, get back to planet Earth and say, what are the things I have? And that's kind of the Rodriguez formula that we both know, right?
Right. Exactly. He was one of the first ones to kind of go really hugely successful with it, at least for the generation that knows about him, and our generation of people, because he made what was his first one? Mariachi.
Oh, Mariachi.
And like his credit cards for no money.
And I remember seeing it over at Sony in a screening at Independent Feature West. And it was one of the first things my wife and I went on out. And of course, after that, she goes, "You took me to this movie?" It was kind of a strange movie, but she was a good sport about it. But the crowd was enthralled because, and one thing he would do, I thought this was interesting. He shot it on film, so he would shoot one angle and then yell freeze. Everybody would freeze in the frame. He would run over to another angle and then say go. And then once he was rolling, then they would go. And that's how he edited in camera.
Yeah.
So if people that don't know that go, that's how you have to think about it. You know?
Well, and that's exactly it. I mean, it's the process of thinking about everything that you're going to need to make what you're writing. And, a lot of people, I think, overwrite, or they write something and say, I'm going to, like you said, I'm going to make this movie, and it's going to take place in an 18-wheeler on the moon. And
yeah.
And it doesn't work. You're starting out behind the 8 ball. When you do that stuff and shooting your entire film in a foot, and for a lot of independent filmmakers, when it comes time to get started and do this stuff, the budgeting, the filmmaking with a calculator, it's a definite mindset. It's a way of sitting down before you even start writing your film and think about all of the things that you're going to need to make every word of that script come to life. Now, the problem is, and this is an interesting point that I just want to touch on with you, is that can be creatively stifling for some people.
Oh yeah, I think that's absolutely true. I think people get a story in their head, they get enthusiasm about that story, and that's the one they wish to execute. And there's a lot of versatility when you're writing, is to go, you and I are good at spitballing. Give us an idea and boy, we'll run with it. And pretty soon people go, wow, you really kind of came up with that. We did it on the Alien movie just now, or the tow truck movie. And
Sure.
and the point is somebody somewhere says, I'd like to hire you to direct. And here's what it is. And you go, wow, I'm really not enthusiastic about your script. And you go, oh, good. That's good to know. Thanks for the honesty. I'm moving on. I'm not hiring you. Okay. Take it from there.
Right.
Or do you, in the craft and execution of it, do you actually say, I'm going to find my enthusiasm and work my craft, make some money, have some fun, which is a lot better than a lot of people get out of a lot of their lives, all the above. And do I actually figure out how to do this? I'd worked with a guy named Bill Duke, and he got a chance to direct a film about 4 Jewish women in an Orthodox community. I can't think of the name of the movie at the moment, but I remember Bill saying, he's the man in Predator, right?
Yeah, I love Bill Duke.
Yeah, Bill's great guy, great guy. And I was working on this one project, and whenever he wanted to try and intimidate me, he'd take that hat off and give me that stare, and I'd be like, no, that's not working, Bill. Nice try. Not going to happen. He's just a terrific guy. But he said, I grew up in a black community. I'm a black man. I don't know anything about this Jewish Orthodox faith, but he dove in and found what intrigued him and what was the enthusiasm.
Right.
And then, crafted a film. And I remember liking the film. And that's, I think, one thing to learn is that you won't get everything your way. Anybody that gets everything their way is extremely lucky. I don't know one filmmaker that people I've worked with that got everything they wanted. There's,
I don't think I've ever got a 10th of what I actually wanted.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it becomes a compromise, and it becomes having to keep, like you said, keep that passion alive. And I think for a lot of the indie guys who are out there with the smaller budgets and getting started with some things, I think it's important to think about the fact that, turn your limitations into your strengths.
Absolutely.
If you're not going to have, a 1994 Ferrari, whatever, or have access to it, then don't write it in your script.
Right. Do not write it. Actually write with things that you have available within the means of what you have. And those are wise words you just said. And I know so many people that try and push the edge of the envelope for their.
My mic is on.
Hashtag
Joe's fault. Oh, blame Joe. My bad. See, I can't even get that right anymore.
Blame Joe. Is my pop filter preventing these pops? It's the last time you make fun of my pop filter.
Well, it looks like you're making out with it.
Where'd Michael go?
There he is.
Oh man, you left me and Joe to have to entertain people with our own bullshit.
And Michael, nobody wants to see this.
I'm warned right now. Gotcha. I will rescue.
Listen, we have a bunch of questions. I'd like to kind of pause for a second and maybe
Sure.
have Joe take us through some of these questions, because I think he's probably been had a chance to see more of them come in than me.
What questions?
Oh, fuck you, Joe.
We'll bring you back in a minute.
All right.
I did. Am I on now or?
Oh, you're on. You're live. Yes.
One thing interesting is just related to the lab we cut out there, but about compromise, and there's really, not one filmmaker that hasn't had to compromise. And it was funny. I was at a DGA event, Directors Guild of America, and they have Steven Spielberg there. And of course, you're like, okay, so that's packed, right? Because everybody liked to hear what he had to say. And he literally sits there, and people are talking and about things in his career, and he said, oh yeah, on Munich, he goes, we had all these Zoom shots on Munich. It was such a total clusterfuck. and literally that's quote from Spielberg saying, here's the guy that I'd say certainly nearly defined the last 20 years of cinema, or 30.
Absolutely.
And here he is saying, oh, it was a disaster. I mean, I had to figure this out, and what am I doing? And that's much more prevalent than one thinks. And I think the skill that people can use is adaptability. And because I've had line producing, I've had things where an actress was on LSD and cocaine, and I had to work things around. I've had things catch on fire. I've had locations fall out. Literally, people coming in. You have the entire crew there, and they're going, our regional vice president didn't sign this location contract. We really don't care. You can't film here. And I mean, there's like so many curveballs get thrown. And if you're if you're the director too, you're the leader. If you freak out, everybody freaks out. As soon as somebody goes, and same with the line producer and producer, I think, if you say, oh, drip truck's on fire, actress is on LSD, good. We're going to figure it out. It'll be fine. People all of a sudden go, oh, okay, sounds good. And it is truly the military analogy. If the general is freaking out, everybody's going to freak out, right?
No doubt.
So that's a really important part of adaptability and the leadership element. And people also, if you're thinking of low budget or any kind of film, people don't want to have their time wasted. Yeah, you're paying for their time. Sometimes, quite well, have somebody sit around for $3,000 a week and they'll say, sure, waste my time. But you lose enthusiasm. You can't actually buy enthusiasm.
Right.
I can buy your time.
If I may interrupt, Sean actually asked a question pertaining to that.
Sure.
That actually pertains to that.
Oh, yeah.
And it's actually an interesting question. If an actor is sick with, let's say, the flu, for example, he continues to work and the other talent continues to work as well, but could get sick or so. Do you have to pay them extra, or is it considered an extreme and not covered in contract? Hope this makes sense.
Well, that's an interesting question. I like that one. Thank you very much, Sean. Great question. In general, I've had actors fall ill in a couple areas. Number one, they're either there or not, and if they're so sick they can't work, then you might reschedule another day for them to have them get better. That's number one. Number two, I mean, it could be literally to where their nose is so bad you go, we're not going to be able to match another scene because they're that sick. So all of a sudden they're at the coffee shop, then they go to the birthday party, and you go, well, I thought they were sick or something was wrong. I mean, how sick are they? That's one. And number two would be, are they contagious? Because that starts to go through a crew. And I've literally hired a doctor to come in and give everybody like some B12 shots. I mean, like 200 of them.
Wow.
You're just going, just hit everybody with this, knock it down. On the first day of Taken, the movie Taken at the airport, we had to, due to logistical concerns, start at the airport. So our first day, we had, I don't know, 300 extras or something at an airport, LAX here. And I met one of the actresses the day before. She was sick. She gave me the flu. I'm literally the next day going, oh my God, I feel miserable. So the doctor gives me a B12 shot. I can't be gone. But I didn't want to spread it to anybody else, so I isolated myself. But you won't pay them anything extra. But I will tell you a story on the movie Havoc with Annie Hathaway. We had an actor by the name of Raymond Cruz, great guy. And he had some other guys in roles, day player roles, and some weekly roles in these gangs kind of thing. And two of these guys were like sitting on the curb, heads down, in their hands, like just resting, right? And I said, well, are they okay? What's wrong with them? And he goes, oh no, they're both really sick, but they're here. They're willing to work. They're here. They're here doing the work. And I go, man, they were sick, really sick. But they said, no, we got a job to do. We're going to be here and do it. And it would have really messed with our schedule because they were in the day before scene. So we would have really had to scramble.
Right.
So, there's a couple ways to handle the flu scenario. I hope that helped, Sean? Was that helpful, I think? I hope.
Oh, absolutely.
I think it did. But beyond that, it reminded me how much I used to love getting those damn on-set B12 shots, man.
Anything you can take. Oh, my God.
Because you get so run down, but those B12 shots, you'd go to the medic and be like, yo, I need another B12 shot. And then you feel like Superman, that and like some of those oxygen tanks they keep around and stuff.
Oh, absolutely. You can hit all that stuff. It's funny. I had an actress and she, the Teamsters went in to clean out the trailers because at the end of the night they have to check the trailers, and you do things like make sure nobody has a computer or a printer on the desktop as the trailer's being driven. It'll fall over and break, so they put stuff on the floor, that kind of thing. So they always check it and go through it. And at one point, you're welcome, Sean. At one point, I saw them go into this actress's trailer and two of the Teamsters, and they shot out of there like you couldn't believe. And I went, oh my God, what's the matter? You guys okay? And they go, well, we went in there and we looked at that tabletop and there was so much residual cocaine on the tabletop. If they get that in their blood or their system, they're never, and they get a blood test, random test, they're never going to go again. Right. That'll be it.
Exactly.
So, I never saw them move that fast in my life, but they came shoot. They didn't use the ladder. They just jumped out of there.
I think one time I had to go do that back when I was PAing on some stuff, and we found a bunch of necrophiliac porn magazines at the time. At the time, I didn't even know that there were magazines dedicated to that fetish. But there were whole, we were in an actor's trailer who I won't name. But,
my God!
Yeah, it was like crazy shit. It was magazines with like skeletons posed and weird. It was fucked up. But
I'd say that I'd start with the editor of that magazine and work all the way down the staff to go. You're doing what?
So, listen, I think there might be some more questions.
Sure.
Let's see. The guy sneezes behind you. I think exactly what's happening with everybody is what I was hoping was going to happen was, I think that this dialogue between us is starting to kind of point out, almost a different way of thinking about some of this stuff than a lot of people have maybe realized that they need to think about it.
Well, you're right. You're right. I mean, I told you about that VidCon conference, which is in Anaheim, video conference. It's online video. I think I've gone to the last 5 or 6. I'm going to go next summer. It's in Anaheim. And I've gone to all the conferences, streaming, NatP, DGA, PGA, American Film, blah, 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 lots of stuff. It's by far the most vital, and the best T-shirt I saw at this video online conference was "Make something today, even if it sucks."
Yeah.
And the mentality of film was, it's so precious and it's so expensive between buying the film, processing the film, showing the film, piecing the film. I mean, that whole process is gone for expense. So now you can actually just say, well, hey, I'm going to shoot a short film tomorrow. Get 2 actors together, come up with a scene, you know, whatever it is, and work with actors. And all of a sudden you have a short film. And it could be something as, if you know, a man and a woman, they're both actors in your local town, and you have a third person. If you have 3, you always have an argument. You know, 2 people agree, the third one disagrees. Okay, great. You got to set up. And the wife finds $20,000 in the husband's sock drawer and has to explain it. You know what I mean? And
Sure.
the mother-in-law says, well, we need that money. You got a short film. And
right.
If you're just practicing your craft, you have the advantage of shooting it, editing it, working with the actors to learn how beats in the script work, angles, the emotions in alignment with the shots and composition. And you do it and you go, wow, that didn't work out well. I didn't do well. Don't show it to anybody. You don't have to.
Yeah, record over it.
Record over it. You actually, but you have invaluable experience of learning right there.
Yeah.
So you're right. It's the mentality. It's 100% that, Cameron. You and I always had that from minute one. So.
Well, yeah. And, you know, actually what you just brought up actually speaks to something that I'm hoping to get off the ground early in 2020 with the Indie Brigade. Right now, as you know, we've got a film festival going on for just trailers.
That's right.
Did I tell you that yet?
I think you mentioned it, but we hadn't gotten into that yet. I think that's an excellent idea.
Absolutely, just designed to be a fun way to collaborate and to get people some bragging rights. And, you know, the winners get, you know, one of the things that I do the woodworking. So the winner every 3 months, we're going to have a new festival and a new group of winners. So the winner every 3 months, you know, the camera front boxes, right, that hold the slates and the markers and all that stuff.
Oh, that's a great one.
Yeah, so I designed one of those out of hardwoods, and I designed my own, and I make it out of hardwoods and stuff. So the winner every 3 months will get one of those. But they also get all 3 winners get to do things like have one-on-one Q&As with people like us, people like you and me, and all the other judges and members of the community and mentors, to just ask about a project or to ask about something they're stuck on, or to, you know, just maybe help them along just a little bit.
And you know, do people have full feature scripts? They do the trailer for a full feature script? I mean, do they have to have a script, or do they just make the trailer?
It can be a pitch trailer. It can be. Oh. The only rule, I think, is that it can't be a film that's been distributed.
Gotcha.
It has to be. It has to be either a finished film. And when I say distributed, like you putting it on YouTube or putting it on Vimeo, that doesn't count. I'm talking about. Yeah. It can't have been picked up and sold and have, you know, made a lot of money and all. It has to be just something that you're either trying to get off the ground or something you finished, and it has to be under 3 months.
That's excellent. I think that's just terrific, because it goes back to our initial conversation of, like, when you and I talk, going, okay, before you really spend time writing something, all that effort, can you sell it? Is it sellable? Is it marketable? What's the hook?
Right.
Is it, even more so in this, just what's a attention, you know, a deficit of attention. How do you get noticed in this world, you know, for some piece of entertainment? Because there's so many choices. So you've got to have something unique.
Well, that goes back to what we talked about the other night on the telephone, which is this micro niche stuff. And we're coming up on the end of the show here. So what I'd like to do is go ahead and let everybody know that we're actually going to be doing a part 2 with Michael. Tonight has been sort of an introduction of Mr. Michael Mandaville. And all that he offers to a conversation about this stuff. I'm looking very forward to the fact that he is interested in becoming more involved with the Indie Brigade, making himself available in the community and things like that. Hopefully I can get him to judge this film festival with me too.
Oh, I'd love to do that.
And, you know, and so, but Michael is literally one of the most genius minds I've ever spoken to when it comes to breaking down a script, budgeting a script, scheduling a script, and how it all works. And it's an honor, you know, professionally to know him. And it's a pleasure personally to call him friend and brother. So I'm thrilled that you're here tonight, and I'm thrilled that you're interested in being a part of this with us all. So this is not the last time you will see Michael Mandaville, and in fact, we're going to be doing part 2, hopefully on the 3rd with him, and continuing this into the season premiere of season 2.
Oh, there we go.
Right, because this is the season finale of Romero Pictures Indie Brigade, and we are currently talking with Mr. Michael Mandaville. But we got to wrap it up. So is there anything you want people to know about what you're doing, where they can find you outside of the Brigade, anything like that, what you got going on?
Well, I have filmmakingwithacalculator.com and michaelmandaville.com. I'm going to be posting more on michaelmandaville.com. My Instagram that I kind of use a little bit here or there is Mickey Blue Eyes. I'm sure you'd appreciate that.
Yeah.
And I also answer a lot of questions on Quora. I enjoy doing that. So people ask me film questions there, and I like to write out good answers. So I think that's pretty good. Probably have a couple other things, but those are the main ones. And I just say, I think you and I definitely hit it. It's the mindset that matters.
Yeah.
If you think you can do it or you think you can't, you're probably right, is what I think Henry Ford said. So just push through, persevere is the key. Just say, I'm going to get to the finish line, whatever I've got. And that in and of itself is going to build such confidence for you to say, okay, project 2. That's I think, the essence of what I think you and I talk about a lot of times.
I think it is too. And, you know, I think what I'd like to do for part 2 of this, if it's cool with you, is pick some actual drill down things and give some people some real world practical examples, maybe even throw some graphics up on the screen and
sure,
like that, and actually start kind of, you know, and maybe we'll even do some polls and take some questions between now and then, just to see if anybody's got anything specific that may be able to help us drill down. But I'd like to actually just do some real world practical type.
Yeah, we could do the back of the envelope exercise for something. We could, you know, and then maybe somewhere we'll do another one where it's a bigger size film of some sort, whatever.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
I think it'd be great. Yeah,
yeah.
I'd love it.
I'm letting you guys know we probably could have filled an hour alone with questions.
Wow. Well, I'm happy to come back and answer them, and I appreciate people's patience and for Cameron and I to get yammering away here.
Which happens. But, you know, one of the things, all of these questions, they will show up in the comments. So if you're sitting around later tonight or some other, I know you've got that thing you've got to go to tonight, but if you're sitting around and feel like scrolling through these and maybe hitting on some of these people, because I'm sorry we haven't had a chance to get to every question. Keith Hammer, Keith, I love that you are always all about it. Like, yo, let's make movies. Anyone needs some scary music, let me know.
Thank you, Keith.
Keith seems like a really good dude, and I'm happy he's part of the community. He's available to work with some folks. And, you know, I just think that this is great, man. I'm super excited for this to become a regular resource for people because as we announce on January 2nd and the 3rd, we are about to launch some big old resources for indie filmmakers to help them figure this whole fucking thing out.
You know, and it's never a better time. Between streaming is there, it's expanding. In the niches, there are riches, as the saying goes. And I think that, you know, I think your woodworking thing is friggin' genius. It's totally friggin' genius.
Well, you know, maybe we can use something like that in the next episode as more of a practical example too, because that's an actual production.
I like that. I like that idea because streaming is a place, you know, it's interesting. You have a feature, but sometimes I think these 10-episode streaming shows are an extended feature. And when we invest in ourselves and want to engage with characters and really see, you have this extended development. So we're obviously all into our different shows, and there's so much to offer. But when you know, the thing you have is you are a woodworker. I don't know I don't know really crap about that. You know, I don't. I mean, I know what a plane is. I got this. Okay, I got a miter saw. I do a little, you know, but I think on a scale of 1 to 10, it's like a 0.5.
Basically, you just take all those tools you just mentioned and stick them together with a vise and throw them at a piece of wood, and then you have a chair.
There we are. You know, a pole to shove up some producer's ass, which is brings another story to mind. I may call you on that for some kind of woodworking. I'll tell you that. But it's you know, that authenticity you have is just key, because people will say that is woodworking humor. That's woodworking insight. You know, measure twice, cut once. I mean, all these you know, little elements that, if I try to do the show, they go, well, this guy has no idea what he's doing, you know, in a few minutes. But with you, they know and they trust it. And that trust and authenticity, when I went to VidCon, to emphasize this point, is authenticity.
Yeah.
And that must have come up in almost virtually every conversation. If you look at the BS world of Hollywood, you got some real wimpy actors trying to be badasses, you know, and you're like, no, I'm not buying it. I'm just don't buy it. And then you got somebody like Russell Crowe, who's like, he'll probably hit you. And like Robert Mitchum, he kind of reminds me of that. Hit you, wait till you wake up, offer you a drink, hit you again.
Yeah. Like Cassavetes.
Yeah, that's right.
He wasn't afraid to knock you in the teeth if he had to.
Yeah. And
you know what I mean? And that's how it used to be. But yeah, oh man, go to Venice Beach and it's just like all these yoked dudes, you know, who with glass jaws.
Yeah. And you know, and, or Hollywood has its pseudo intellectuals, and I'm going, just remember, they're all reading teleprompters. They're just memorizing lines. This guy is not really a nuclear physicist. I mean, so you get this faux intellectualism, you know, and that is interesting, because video online and the internet said, I am real. And this is what, to a great extent, not everything, it said, this is what I really like and believe. And it finds other people that have the same. And now you have connectivity, engagement, thought, and an expansion of thought. And that's not something that Hollywood was attuned to. Maybe on talk shows or something, you know, maybe, but you know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean. And that's exactly what the Indie Brigade is about.
There we go.
And we're doing it without teleprompters.
There we Nothing here, folks.
I may need one.
Hey, you unmuted it. Michael, we got to call it. We got to call it. I can talk to you all night, but we got to call it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So thank you so much for coming on here on the season 1 finale of Romero Pictures Indie Brigade.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Joe. Cameron?
Thank you very much, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
You got it.
Fuck you, Joe.
Hey, George.
That was authentic.
Yeah.
Love you long time.
Oh, fuck off till next time.
Don't go there yet. Hold on a second.
I already did it. No, the tagline's been said.
Really?
Yeah.
All right. Good night, everybody.
All right.
Thank you for joining us.
Next time.
See you later.